Why?
Why do I have to be here?
No, why would you not have to be
I
here?
don't know, because Sean's not here.
Oh, for the love of God, who
I told him, oh,
knows?
I wanted to turn it off, baby.
Yeah.
Man,
Caught him.
I'll tell you, there's very few days when I would not want to be you, and that was this week.
Oh my God.
There's very few days.
I'm telling
Because
you.
mostly I'd say, I would like to be Alexis, but not this week. For a quorum. Do you have anybody on the phone or on Zoom? Oh, oh right. You have to establish a quorum. But do you
Well,
need a
where is
quorum if
everybody?
you need a public hearing, you need a
Well,
quorum.
Andrew's not coming. Andrew's supposed to be on Zoom.
Yeah. Where's Hafiz?
Alexis, I'm
I
on
don't know, but
Zoom.
Andrew's supposed to be on Zoom. He asked for
Alexis,
the
I'm
Zoom
here. We're
link.
here. Alexis, look up. Juliet, say hi. Say hi.
Turn this off.
I'm here too on Zoom. Hi, Juliet. Hi, Andrew.
Say hi. I'm on Zoom. Oh, I don't know. All right. Hafiz said he's a few minutes out.
Hi, everyone. Hi, good evening. I'm just gonna make a quick announcement. So, if you signed in to talk about the budget, you don't have to sign in for that. But if you signed in to to speak at the council meeting, you do have to sign it. So right now we don't have a quorum yet, so we're just waiting for another person to come in, and then we will start our meeting. Thank you.
So call the meeting November 1st. Good evening. Thank you. Special meeting for 2024 budget, Upper Darby Township Council, November 1st, 2023. Please stand. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Can we please remain standing for prisoners of war and men and women missing in action? Thank you. Secretary Billups, can I get a roll call, please?
Sure. Counselor Heyman, I believe you're on Zoom.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry. Counselor Blackwell, I believe she's on her way. Counselor Andrusco.
Here.
Counselor Sadiq.
Present.
Counselor Faralia. Counselor Silver, I believe, is on his way.
Correct.
President Burke.
Here, thank you.
Secretary Billups is here. I believe Counselor Wagner is on her way. Vice President Tunis is on his way. Counselor Wentz.
Here.
Thank you. And I think everyone is here or on their way.
Yep.
Thank you. We have our Solicitor Marcini. We also have our wonderful officers in the back. We have the Honorable Mayor Barbara Ann Keffer, who is also on Zoom. And we have our Treasurer, David Heyman, and we have Diane from Controller. My apologies. And we have Alexis, and of course, we have the wonderful residents of Upper Darby.
Thank you, Secretary Billups. 3.0 Rules of Medium Decorum. Upper Darby residents have the opportunity to speak. Residents are prohibited from making threats, using profanity, or acting in a manner that would impede or prevent the conduct of business of meeting. 4.0 Finance Appropriation Committee. Chairwoman, Councilwoman Wentz. Take it from here, Councilwoman Wentz, please.
Thank you. Members of the committee are Councilwoman Wagner, Councilman Silva, and Councilman Andrusco. At this time, I believe we are all here for a budget hearing for the 2024 budget, the mayor's 2024 budget. I just wanted to check, Diane, did you have anything you wanted to add at this time, or are you going to be answering questions? Do you want to come up so that you can answer questions for people, or sit next to Treasurer Heyman, or? Okay, just so that if you do answer anything, you're on a mic and everyone can hear you. Did you have any updates you wanted to give us, or were you just ready to rock and roll? Okay, great. So then for everyone to begin the public hearing for the budget of 2024, there is no time limit. So, and there's no need to sign in. The sign-in sheet is only for the meeting starting at 7 or when this meeting concludes. So please step up to the microphone and be respectful of each other. Please state your name and your address so that we have it for our records.
Rich Bly, 6914 Chestnut Street. Before we start proceeding on anything, would it be possible for anybody that's on Zoom to make their face visible so that way those in attendance understand that you're all part of this budget process and you all need to be present in some type of way? I think it's real disrespectful for each and every person who has a stakeholder in this township not to see your presence either on Zoom or live. It's not fair to us.
Mr. Bly, we're here for the budget hearing.
Yes, I want to see, and I'm speaking on that.
Councilman Heyman is here and Mayor Keffer are
Where?
here. And for right now, they're the two that are on Zoom. We would like to continue with the meeting.
So that's,
Everybody knows that they're here.
does everybody know that they're here?
Yep.
Okay.
They're on Zoom.
Guys, I'm
Thank you.
feeding the baby,
So-
so if I'm off camera, that's why.
again,
Thank you, Councilman Heyman. I got it.
I'm going to say this in protest on behalf of the citizens and residents and taxpayers and stakeholders of Upper Darby Township. I think that this budget meeting is a farce. that people are not here to represent their individual districts, so that way the folks who came out here and have to take time out to talk about what you guys are doing with our money, it's an embarrassment that we have to continue to look at empty seats and not get questions. But let me go on and talk about why I'm here before it becomes something else. Prior to this budget, I came before this council asking them about appropriating money for veterans in the budget, by a vote of council, anything. And President Burke, I'm gonna put this directly to you. You've been to the American Legion Post 214. You've seen the public safety, the amount of money that we put in from our budget to keep that area safe with the lights. You lit up the street beside us to make sure that it was lit up. But this is a great expense that veterans who have served and children of veterans who continue to serve this community have to come out of their own pockets when there is a law on the books in Pennsylvania that I've given to each and every one of you to allot money in your budget for veterans. And I want to ask everybody, because I wanted to ask everybody, but I'm just got to ask you now, Mr. Burke, has that happened? Have you guys in your budget allotted any money for veterans, veterans programs, veterans meetings, veterans meeting room, according to the state law that I've handed out to each and every one of you? So I got to ask you, because I can't ask the mayor, because to me, she's not here, I don't see her.
No, so Mr. Bly, in this budget, in the mayor's budget right now, there is no money.
Thank you.
Council has not adjusted any of the budgets. So.
Council President Burke, council members, my name's John McDevitt, 440 Hampshire Road, Drexel Hill. I'd like to speak on Upper Darby's public safety budget. I would expect to be about 6 minutes. For comparison purposes, I prepared budget numbers for Springfield, Havertown, and Lower Merion combined, which I will then compare to Upper Darby's public safety budget and allocations. I will use the current budget numbers because the 2024 comparisons are not yet available for all three of these communities. I have chosen Springfield, Havertown, and Lower Merion because they are neighboring communities that we're all very familiar with. They are also first-class townships, as is Upper Darby Township. So Springfield has 1 fire station with paid and volunteer crew. Havertown has 5 fire stations that are exclusively volunteer. Lower Merion has 6 fire stations, which are also paid and volunteer. Springfield, Havertown, and Lower Merion's combined fire protection budgets are $5.2 million. Upper Darby's current fire protection budget is $14.4 million. And the proposed 2024 budget contains a 14% increase to $16.2 million. Fire protection is about lives and property. Those 3 communities have 139,000 lives and 40 square miles of property. Upper Darby has 85,000 lives and 7.8 square miles of property. But we still spend over $9 million more a year for fire protection than those 3 communities do. So why do these 3 communities budget so much less for fire protection? I suggest one reason may be found among the ranks of their volunteer firefighters. Volunteer firefighters have a positive impact on municipal budgets all over the country, and they're also good for public fire safety. But this administration has restricted volunteer participation and made volunteer firefighters feel unwelcome, and it starts at the top. In Mayor Keffer's budget address, 3 pages, everybody got a mention except the volunteer firefighters. The people who work for free, get up in the middle of the night to protect Upper Darby Township lives and property were not mentioned once. In the Lower Merion current budget report, volunteer firefighters are mentioned 31 times. The job description for Upper Darby Township's fire chief, 2 versions. Once again, the volunteers are not mentioned at all in the chief's job description. The last fire chief wasn't properly tasked with the operation of the volunteer component of Upper Darby Township's fire department. He had no experience in a volunteer system, and he despised the volunteers. Drexel Hill Fire Company has served as a community center for 115 years. They are second busiest in Upper Darby Township. They are the largest fire protection district and likely protect the largest part of Upper Darby Township's taxes. And oh yes, Drexel Hill Fire Company still welcomes the youth of Upper Darby Township. Come in, join, learn, participate, and contribute to Upper Darby Township. While in another Upper Darby fire station, applicants are told, and I'll quote, "We're all professionals now, we don't take volunteers anymore." This is a disservice to the taxpayers of Upper Darby, but more so to the youth of Upper Darby, who used to come into the firehouses at age 16 and stay out of trouble. It is my opinion that a good explanation for our fire protection budget is where it is and why it's increasing to 6.2, as we need to take better care of our volunteers. I'd like to move on to police now. Crime is our biggest problem in Upper Darby. Serious crime is at an all-time high and still on the rise. Deadly crime has more than doubled just this week. So we budget 3 times more for fire protection than Springfield, Havertown, and Lower Merion combined. So one would expect that Upper Darby would also budget 3 times more for police protection. The comparison, however, for the current police budgets are Upper Darby Township, $30.9 million for police. Springfield, Havertown, and Lower Merion combined, $51.4 million for police. So why do we budget 3 times more for fire protection, and we don't even get close to those communities with police protection? For every $100 they budget for police protection, Upper Darby budgets 60. For every $100 they budget for fire protection, Upper Darby budgets 281. Those 3 communities dedicate 91% of their public safety money to police protection. Upper Darby dedicates only 68% of its public safety money to police protection. Anybody take a shot at explaining that disparity? The 2024 public safety budget will be $50 million, and I don't believe it is being managed or allocated properly. We budget 3 times more for fire protection than our neighboring communities, but they budget almost twice what we do for police. These are the numbers. They're not my opinion. These are numbers. You could look them up yourself. And as demonstrated by these local comparisons, we don't budget enough for police, and we budget in excess for fire protection. I respect the council for their dedication, time, energy, and service to Upper Darby Township, but I wonder who's watching the store here. What kind of expertise does the mayor, CAO, and council have in these important public safety matters? Who is at the negotiating table representing the taxpayers? I appreciate the good communication I have had with both Brian Burke and Brian Andrusko, who do respond to an occasional email or text, but communication with this mayor and council falls far, far short. Can I answer any questions?
Go ahead.
What you have there in
Sure.
email? Thank you.
Actually, can you send it to all of us? Or Lisa, can you forward it to all of us? Great.
All right, do I have your right email addresses?
I think you don't.
I have 2 for you, Laura.
UD Council Laura
UD
Wentz @gmail.com is my
Okay.
new one.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you very much for those comparisons. They're really, that was a lot of really important information. And just know, I mean, President Burke just did point out moments before that this is the mayor's budget that we're all discussing at this point in time.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, John Bizzari, 353 Kirks Lane. I only have 2 quick questions, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time on the budget. And this is to Ms. Scuddy. with regards to, I believe you in your presentation mentioned that 2.5 million from ARPA interest was allocated to the budget, which I understand is unrestricted funds. That calculation, because as of September's report, we earned 1.7 million in interest. Is that calculation based on the money going through to December at the end of this year?
No, it's based on a calculation through, a conservative calculation through, I would say, mid-2024.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, because I don't have specific questions for tonight, unfortunately, because in looking at the detailed report and even the overall report that was published on the website, why are we only given mid-July actuals instead of at least August actuals to really look at and compare where we are for the year based on the 2023 budget to formulate our questions if the proposed budget is really in
No,
sync?
I agree. I understand what you're saying. We're working with a new budget system through OpenGov, so I'm just learning. So I think I agree with you that they should be, and hopefully maybe going forward in next year, that it would be more in line with the,
So isn't there a way to run a new report, new budget, to detailed report to show, I mean, we've closed out September now, right? And the actuals are what they are, whether they're verified or not, they're
I mean, I
actuals.
can discuss with the CAO and the mayor if we can release the updated
Okay.
numbers.
Thank you.
Excuse me one second. Would it be possible to put that online?
I can discuss it. I am going on vacation
believe
tomorrow,
it's-
so I don't,
Okay.
you know, I won't be able to.
I believe it's public knowledge. It should be online.
I will discuss it with them.
So if possible, I'd like the end of August online by the end of the week. It should be able just to push a button. Thank you. Kyle.
Who's excited? It's my favorite time of the year. It's Christmas. Budget season. Okay. So since this is obviously the first hearing, I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions, just clarifying questions. I just want to say thank you for putting the line item on the website. I think it's been very helpful and informative, just to kind of see where all the number justifications are coming from. I'm not going to have much in the way of comment for the budget right now, obviously minus my already previous comments about recreation. So one of my first questions is regarding the, and like I said, these might just be very simple questions, but for like the professional services for the legislative body, I see that it's $11,200. Is there any further clarification on what the professional services are?
That is codifications, and those, I think, are the ordinances. Is that right, Alexis, that get posted? This is in the professional service budget, in the council's budget. I have updates of codifications and yearly maintenance fees. So the codifications are the laws, right? Yeah, the codifications, we actually just got the newest update. Yeah, so it's an electronic system of posting those things.
Gotcha. Next question, it's the miscellaneous, wait, wait. Nope, never mind, I don't have that question. All right, next page. So on number 2, I see obviously there's an increase for legal services. We're looking at $156,000 increase. Has there been any like discussions or negotiations? Is that just the number that we get from the solicitor? I'd assume that's what that legal services would be for?
I mean, the legal services is just our projections of what we estimate will be, you know, is our projections for next year based on, you know, and maybe discussions with the solicitor, what we've done this year, just budgeting out what we may know that will be coming up in the new year.
Okay, so it's like it's just a projection. For the Office of CAO, I noticed that we are adding a $35,000 for dues and subscriptions. Is there any further clarification on what the subscriptions are?
Those were, previously, I think those were under HR, and those are just the general,
okay.
subscriptions, for the township for various organizations.
For legal services for human resources, I know the prior person had talked about like the actuals. So I know, obviously, looking at human resources for legal services, we'd be looking at about $100,000. Obviously, for the budget, it was $225,000. We're increasing it another $50,000 to $275,000. How are we getting that estimate, I guess is my question, because it seems to be a pretty significant, I mean, at the bare minimum, it looked like it would be something that would be kept flat.
Well, but also you have, your CBA contracts. I think they're all, 3 of them are expiring at the end of December. So, our labor, as you know, our labor budget is the biggest part of our budget. So that's why we use the labor attorneys. There's,
Gotcha.
for many issues throughout the year, and also, in helping with the renegotiations of the collective bargaining agreements.
Gotcha, okay. So that's what, okay. I know you answered the question already about information technology, so I will go to the next page. Page 4, we're looking at computer software and licenses from the information technology. I see that it was 300,000. I didn't know if that was coming from the contracted IT networking services or if that's like a new thing in and of itself.
There was a lot of reclassifications, like properly classifying things under the right object codes.
Gotcha, okay.
That's what those adjustments.
So it's not
So,
necessarily an increase, it's just a, like.
I think
it's getting-
there was an increase of about 114,000, but that was just for our professional services, for IT plus software licensing, things like that constantly go up every year.
Okay.
Maintenance.
I mean, I guess, my commentary to council on that would be like, obviously, I think this is something, if we're talking about like the budgetary constraints, like obviously, I think the township needs to tighten its belt to some degree and we need to consider where we're spending money. I think if we are, like, can the same work be done, maybe not with the latest and greatest software and maybe with like a more, frugal approach. So I would just say like, that's just something to note for council, I think, for that 114. Administrative services, and I know this comes up a lot with the postage. I guess this is just a general question on when we're talking about postage, or could you give a clarification about like what that's actually being used for? Not obviously it's for postage, but like what is actually being mailed?
I would say the biggest thing is the bills for the real estate bills, trash, sewer, that's a huge part. Reminder letters to residents when bills are not paid. And then just every department has mailings that go out.
Yeah.
And you'll see it shifted. It was under building facilities and we shifted it back to administrative services. That's
Gotcha.
what happened this year.
Was there any
In 24.
consideration when doing this budget to discuss with the department heads about the possibility of, really reducing postage and possibly going a more electronic route since, it is 2023? I mean, the future, like, it's something that we can easily save money on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can just speak to my department. We are going to be going with online bills in January. So that's hopefully we can start moving away from paper and sending things out. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
That would be
Okay.
something we all should be considering.
Okay, and then next page, and this is just a clarification for the police budget. It's not really like any questions. It's just that obviously when we're talking about that 1 million salary increase, we're talking about the cost of living adjustments. I mean, how much of that 1 million increase is like new personnel?
Where are you at the 1
Oh,
million? I'm
sorry, I jumped to page 5, for the salaries full-time for the police.
Oh, for the police, okay.
Sorry, my bad.
Okay, let's get to that place. So the 1.1 million is just the increase for the collective bargaining agreement,
Gotcha.
longevity increases as well.
All right, that's what I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
Going down, obviously, I know they split off the pension plan, right? That's what that new line item is for the 3 million, is that it's the pension obligation coming out of like the general. It used to all be combined and now it's going to be under the police department.
No, it's always been in the the pension obligation, how we split it out in the budget is you'll see it under police and fire, and then you'll see it under, and then everyone else is under general government.
Gotcha. And then I guess these are just like, once again, I mean, obviously all departments have to talk about, I think, something about tightening budgets, at least so that we're spending money as efficiently as we can on programming and such. For promotional materials, I see for the police department, it was only $5,000. I don't know, what is a promotional material, I guess, is my question?
I have it written down, so let me just see.
Because I do know social media is like free and probably the best way to promote things.
Could it be the cop cards?
But that's, yeah, that's what I'm asking is like,
Okay, thank you. I'll get back, maybe at the next one I
Okay,
can
no
get
worries.
that more clarified, because my note here isn't very clear as to what it is.
no worries.
But I'll get back to you on that one.
And then I know, like, we have obviously the professional and continuing education. I'm always for continued education and training, especially for our officers. I do notice that only like 40,000 was spent, and the budget is currently at $123,000 for continued education. Is that another thing that maybe I think council should consider about, like, when we talk about, like, is money being used and allocated effectively? Is that like a flat fleet fee that we pay contracted out, or is it like as personnel use the continued education?
I believe that is just as, it's continual, right?
Okay.
As people need education for various things, I guess new officers require more education than,
That's fair,
know.
yeah. Okay. Right, next page. I promise that I don't have as many questions over the next couple pages, so we'll speed through it a little bit. Don't really have much in the way from the fire department. I just want to say, I do notice that there's a lot more line items, and I would say that I definitely appreciate seeing where a lot more of the money is going. I will say, like, for the electricity for the fire department, is the $260 the actual? Seems pretty low.
I mean, I would say that's probably just for the main building. It's
Okay.
not for the houses. It's for
Oh,
the,
okay,
you know.
all right. I was gonna say, I was like, $260, like,
yeah,
did
I
they
think
even
that's
have the
why we
lights on?
cut that budget by 3,000, so it's only gonna be 1,500.
Okay. So I have a question about the street cleaning. So when we're talking about the street cleaning, and I noticed that it was personnel, how is the street cleaning like allocated? Like, is that like a regular service that we have like scheduled into our calendars? And how do they determine, like, because obviously the only thing we have on here is salaries, so I'd assume that the personnel are, have regularly scheduled times that they're supposed to clean the streets. I know obviously sanitation is always a big deal down at 69th Street. How are these like formulated, I guess, or like how is it being used?
Kyle.
Yeah.
I don't
One
think
one second. I do know there's a schedule online
Okay.
of where the street sweepers are supposed to be. I believe we have two street sweepers that are operating. So I do know I've been asked that question, and the schedule's online where they're at.
Okay.
So that's all.
So like hypothetically, right, like an increase in the salaries there would be an increase in street cleanings, right? Like the amount of times that they could clean the streets.
I mean, I think that increase is just an increase based on the collective bargaining.
Oh, no,
agreement.
not the increase. I'm just saying, like, if council were to increase that budget item, it would be, like, they would be able to clean the streets more often.
I mean, if you hired more individuals, like, I don't know, because I think there's an equipment, you'd have to really,
Okay,
I think that's a
alright.
Joe Martin question. I
Okay.
think there's an equipment,
I'll hold off on that one, I'm
we
sorry.
probably need more equipment. I can get more information from Joe, though.
Now we get to the one that obviously we all know that Kai wants to talk about the most, recreations, yay. So this is just a request. I'll start off with my request for this. So I know that recreations currently does not have a line item for programming. Senior services does have a line item for programming. I just think that like if in the budget, that is being included, even if currently there isn't anything that's going specifically funding-wise to programming, that the Recreations Department could probably benefit from having a dedicated funding source for programming throughout the year. I'm not even saying like what amount it should be, just that it should exist. And when we're speaking of how much money it should be, I noticed for like the scholarships, what we're being frugal, so we're basing it off of how many people actually applied for the scholarships. I'm assuming this is for the summer stage.
Scholarships, yeah, and I did speak to Allison about that today, and she said that we're budgeting more in line with what the memorandum of understanding is.
Okay.
So, I mean, you'll see the spending is not, so that's why we reduced that, is just to be in line with the memorandum.
So I guess my request to council on the recreations is like, obviously that's $100,000 that's already in the recreations department. That could possibly be a good start for that programming line item. I think keeping that money in the department, great. We're not spending it on the scholarships, but it's not like there's not a need there in our department. So I think that you're not taking it away from any other existing department. It's something that's already there. Instead of reducing it, keeping it in the department, putting it towards specifically programming in a new line item. That would be my recommendation to council. It's a start. It's not like gonna solve the world's problems, but you know. Let's see. And so then I have a question about senior services. Well, I guess this is just a question about the, wait, let me make sure I have the line item. I got the wrong page. Oh, no, okay. So for rentals and leases, so I guess I was confused a little bit about like what we were renting, since it's such a small amount.
It's copiers. It's a
Oh,
copier,
okay.
a copier lease.
Gotcha, okay. Okay, last questions. So for page 18, when we're talking about general government, there's this line item that just says miscellaneous revenues. And it says that it was currently budgeted for this year for the $200,000. I was just curious as to what we had budgeted $200,000 for.
Well, miscellaneous is one of those things, you just have no idea what could come in, you know, and that's,
So we
you know,
should,
it just could be anything random, an $18 rebate from something. It's just random money trickles in every day. You know, that you just, and we just put it in miscellaneous.
okay.
It
So
does,
then,
because it doesn't have a classification elsewhere in another revenue line.
so, I mean, obviously, like, budgetarily, that's used to balance the budget. And I see that it's, once again, in the 2024 budget, and we really fell short of this magical, like, I guess, 200,000 savior money, right? Like, just kind of materialize it, which, I mean, I get it, it does. But like, is that 200,000 being used to balance this budget? Like, we expect like $200,000 to just.
I mean, every piece of revenue is it is a balanced budget, so every
Well, yeah, I
revenue
mean, it
item
can't be-
is balancing the expense budget.
Okay, just curious. And then, is that my last? I thought I had one more question. No, I think that's it. Like I said, I hope to hear a lot more of the information, and like I said, hopefully I can provide more requests and answers. But like I said, I would say to council, definitely look at some of the postage and professional services, whether or not we're evaluating that. And then, like, for recreation specifically, keeping that $100,000, putting it towards programming, it's not a long-term investment, it's a start, but you're not taking it away from any of the department. It's staying in the department, it's already allocated, so if we don't need it for the scholarships, great. Let's put it towards other stuff. Awesome, thank you.
Becky Duggan, 129 North Pennock Avenue. I just have a couple quick questions. I noticed that in snow removal, we went from having overtime pay from 125,000 now down to 15,000. Is it not going to snow overnight?
Well, I think they're anticipating, you know, with weather changes that, you know, we didn't really have much snow last year, so we're kind of basing it on,
Every year is different, though. I think it's a very dangerous thing I mean, I know kids don't go to school anymore because they stopped sending kids to school thanks to
I think if we did have a, major snow event, we would then consider shifting from other parts of,
Where?
it's in the highway budget, I believe. So we can, we would not spend on something on the roads and if we had to do overtime in snow.
Okay.
But this is based on.
I know I need to go to work because I need to pay my high taxes here. Next thing, in the parking, there's a thing called Passport. We're going to pay them $188,000. What are we going to get for that?
Okay, so that is a service that we've had in the township, at least, I know we had it last year and probably in the previous year. And in previous years, it was netted against revenue, so you didn't see it as an expense line, but it's more appropriate in terms of accounting to show that as an expense. It's like the third-party provider in giving us the parking services, like the billing services and so forth that this company does. So that's why we're calling it out as opposed to netting it against revenue. So it's always been there, it's just you didn't see it. So now we feel like we're being more transparent by putting it as.
It wasn't in the budget in 2023 showed.
Well, it was in the revenue line as a net against revenue.
It wasn't in the line item.
Correct. So now we feel it's more correct the way it is now.
Okay, so we're going to spend $925,000 to make 1.2 million. So that seems like not a high return on.
You're in the parking?
Yeah, I know it's hard to judge parking from this past year since all the money got stolen, but that's, okay.
Joanne Namavong, 133 North Pennock. I have just a few questions. The first one is, what percentage of a tax increase is going to be put into an ordinance in order to make this budget work? Like, what percentage of a tax increase is in here?
I think it's 5.35.
5.35? Okay. Okay. Then, an observation, so we're having these budget hearings, the residents are asking questions, and I know you've done a lot of work on this, so you're very familiar with it, but it just seems to me that it might make sense to have department heads available for some of these questions. I just think this is something that they should be in on. Next thing, Kyle hit on this, but I'm going to hit on it further. The legal budget is up 55%. That's a huge increase. So I know you said it was discussions with Mr. Kilkenny, et cetera, but do you have a proposed engagement letter for 2024?
I am not sure if we do or not. Okay.
What are the, because they're the same 22 grand and the same hourlies? 180, 230?
Yes, I believe, or maybe.
Well, that's what it was. Oh, well, yeah, but in the same ballpark. Okay. But you just anticipate doing a lot more work.
I don't anticipate anything. I think it's up to them, but my legal fees were around $387 last year. Probably around that.
Oh, because it's going up to 450,000. It's going up to, it's a 55% increase. I checked the numbers. Okay. Okay, next thing, I'm so happy that you provided the details, so we could see the salaries, full-time, part-time. And I did have a question on the Office of the CAO. There's, how many full-time positions are there in the Office of the CAO? Because I know that we had a change in 2023, that Vince got paid through July, and then Allison was getting paid. But
I think there's 3, but I'm just want to.
Okay. And then you have some part-times too, because this year it was 6,100. Now it's going to be up to 42,000. Just curious, did we add personnel or adding hours or?
We added an increase for the CAO, for the new CAO.
So can you tell me what that increase is?
No, but I will.
Okay.
I have to look it up because I don't know.
So you're adding, so you're budgeting in that the CAO will have an increase in pay?
Yes.
Okay, that has to be passed by council, I believe. Isn't that correct?
Yes, council approves the salary for the
Okay.
CAO.
Okay, and you'll just let me know later how many full-times?
Yeah, how many
Okay.
positions and
Thank
the
you.
increase for the CAO.
Okay,
It's at 165 in this budget.
Okay, thank you,
1,000.
Laura.
okay. And then professional services, I was looking at the main, like the first budget you put on, and I thought I saw professional services at 193,000, 194,000. But then when I went to the detail and added up where it says professional services under all the departments, they add up to 457,000. Are they, and then on the general one where I see something that says professional services, is the rest of them like then in those departments? Because I didn't see a professional services department on any detail.
There's not a professional service department.
Right, I know.
But every department has,
Right.
pretty much every department
But-
has professional
Right,
services.
but on the main budget, like the first budget that came out, like the one that wasn't, not the line item one, the general one.
Summary one.
Yeah, the summary one, there was, hold on one second, sorry. Professional services is on page 4, near the bottom, professional services, 193,655. So I'm just curious, like,
Where
if-
that came from versus.
yeah, versus when I add up all the departments, it's 457,000.
I have to go back and look and see
Okay.
the first, what I first posted to the website and how how that was, totaled. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Okay, and then also on professional services, I'm assuming, never knew this, that Mike Galante is, I thought he worked for the township, so he doesn't. Is he the professional services?
Under Public Works, that would be one of their professional services.
So he's under Public Works. So there's a
he's a
lot of
pub-
different, so I know Kyle asked about legislative body, and you asked about, you said something about posting the codifications on the website, like who are we paying to do that?
It's a service. I don't know. Alexis.
E-code is the one that does the
okay.
codification.
All right, okay, so that's what that is, okay. 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 All right.
Diane, I have a question. Diane?
Yeah.
Mike Galante, his professional services, is it under one department, or is it under other departments also?
Yeah, Mike would be charged out to, depending on, he could be on grants. He's on the ARPA, like the things he does there. He could be in any fund, sewer, highway, general fund. It depends on what services he's providing.
But of these general ones, he's probably in L&I and planning and zoning,
He's
in public
yeah.
work.
He's everywhere.
He's in,
Everywhere.
he's in
He's
Vehicle
everywhere.
streets.
maintenance, is
But
he?
Diane?
he's
Okay.
under his company, the company that he works for, right? So it's MC Engineering, I
MG
believe,
something.
or MG Engineering's.
Yeah.
So does he have a number of employees that work for him, or is it just him?
I'm
That do
I'm
work
not
for the
aware of
township?
of what his,
Does anybody know?
I believe it's just him, and he
Does-
hires consultants when it
He hires.
when it pertains to, street
Oh,
safety
okay.
or lighting and stuff like
Okay.
that. Anything that's not his expertise, I'm sure he
Okay.
goes to consultants.
Okay, thank you. And then I just had two other questions. So John asked about the interest, and you said the $2.5 million to ARPA transfer is the interest that you're projecting to be through sometime mid-2024. So what's the $915,000 call of interest?
I'm sorry, what is the?
There's
what?
there's a revenue line item, it's called interest, 915,000. What is that? We're earning interest on our other money?
Yes, that
Because
would
we only
be,
budgeted 100,000 in 2023.
right. And then that was very under budgeted because of interest, is just going through the roof. So we were earned over $1 million so far in interest. And that's a Pliget account for our, when the tax money comes in, we
Okay.
put it in investments.
Okay, thank
And
you.
so I think that, I'm trying to be conservative at 900, but I'm
Okay.
hopeful that it'll be more.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, then just the last question I have is, when you broke out the salaries, you have salaries, full-time, part-time, overtime, whatever, and then you have FICA taxes, which in 2024 is exactly 7.65%. That makes sense if they're FICA taxes. But in 2023 and prior, they're always higher than 7.65%. Does the township not have to pay unemployment taxes?
The FICA is not unemployment.
I know what it
and the
is.
police-
I know it's a Social Security Medicare. I'm a
Yeah, the
CPA. I know exactly what it is.
FICA, no, we do not pay unemployment. We're self-insured.
You're self-insured.
Yes.
So why in other years was it more than 7.65%? Right, in 2023, it's more than that.
Well, it shouldn't have been.
Well,
And
it
it's less,
is.
and it's less for police because police only pay 1.45%. So that's all the township's required to pay. So
So that would-
overall, our, that's,
That would go the wrong way, though.
I know that. So overall, it should be less. It should be calculated correctly this year. If it's not, come see me. 'Cause
Okay,
I
so,
shouldn't-
but like, I'm just saying, like, what's in the numbers through July 12th? Unless it's like a timing thing, because you don't have to actually, but a township this size, I'm sure you're making your deposits within 3 days of payroll or next day. I know my bigger clients have to make them
We have a
right
payroll
away.
service that takes care of that for us,
Right,
yes.
but it just doesn't make any sense that those numbers, and if I go back to prior years, are gonna be higher. So there's gotta be something else in that line item that doesn't belong.
No, it's only FICA. It should be
Yeah,
in
but
there.
it's higher than.
Well, I'll look
that's-
at it, but
Okay.
it should just be,
All
and it
right.
wouldn't be at 7.65
Yeah,
because of
no, I
police.
know that. It just was, I was wondering, because it's like 5% higher. So, not 5%, 5% of the 7.65.
Yeah,
It's like 8 point something percent. So, okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions from the public?
John DeMasi, 706 Standridge Road. A couple questions on the budget real quick. Have we done comparisons for our expenses versus other comparably sized municipalities?
I have
For none. So believe me, I'm trying to find every way to avoid tax increases, especially with what the Upper Darby School District is doing on top of this. One of the big items that stood out was the increase in the solicitor. That's a big increase. I know it's been addressed, but I think compared to like Pittsburgh, their city council solicitor is only $100,000. Allentown is at like 85, Scranton the same, 440,000. Is that, like, that just seems a lot.
So I did, was speaking about this earlier in the meeting today, because I had, the same, thinking
Right.
this question would be asked, and
Right.
it has been. And what the acting CAO was saying is that we do have a lot of legislation that comes forward that requires legal review. That's one thing.
Right.
There's assessment appeals that is handled by our lawyers. Also, if the township is sued, oftentimes, possibly our insurance wouldn't cover the litigation
Right.
in some cases, so that.
And I understand we
we'll pay for
have
that.
been sued a lot.
So,
So I get that.
So I think there's just, there are a lot of matters that come before the township that require, legal representation.
More than like Pittsburgh? Okay, sure. Okay, that's it, thanks.
Are there any other questions from the public? Okay, President Berg, I know I have questions, but before we close the public hearing, I wanted to check and see if any other council members do, and then I'll ask my questions. So does anyone on council have questions to add to this budget hearing?
Councilman Heyman? Okay, thank you.
Nope, I've got
Okay, I
nothing.
have
Hold on,
some,
hold on. Look. Councilman Heyman, do you have anything?
Nope, I've got nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, I have a bunch. Sorry, just kind of going.
Councilwoman Councilwoman Wentz, I think Treasurer Heyman has a question.
Treasurer Hammond, did you have a question? Okay, go ahead. I'll go last.
Oh, sure.
I was looking at the health insurance for the police. I noticed that there is an increase in the health insurance premiums for the fire department and also for the administrative staff. Yet the police health insurance dropped dramatically. Where did we get those savings in health insurance premiums?
Okay, no, we didn't have any savings in health insurance. What you may, are previously with the DCIU, which is our primary health insurer, we had a 2-month holiday, but in 2024, we were going to have a 1-month holiday, meaning we'll have to pay 11 months instead of 12. For the health insurance, it is divided in the police and in the fire between the active employees and the retirees. So Shouldn't have, I mean, so I was making adjustments then between those two lines in 2024. Does that,
No, a $300,000 decrease is, but it seemed pretty substantial, and it did look like it would be more. We were looking at, was it this a month?
Can you speak into the microphone, Treasurer Hammond, because no one online can hear you?
So my question is, did we get a,
Thanks, John.
there we go, then we can go back and forth. Did we get any did we get any, would you call it a holiday or a month? What was that called?
holiday?
It's a holiday, all right. Did we get 1 or 2 months in 2023?
We got
2 months.
2 months in 23 and 2 months in 22.
Okay, so, and we're getting 1, so there, so all of this difference should be a 1-month premium adjustment? Okay, all right.
I'll look at it.
Okay.
I'll look at the police because, yeah.
It's just,
there
well,
shouldn't
it just,
be-
on first glance, not knowing what the premium is, it just looked like it was weird.
Yeah, I'll look at it because there shouldn't be a decrease. There would only be a decrease, David, if it wasn't budgeted correctly in 23. So I'll look at it.
Yeah, so we have a letter from the insurance company telling us what our premiums are going to be, right? Do we know?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
we have, it's a fixed number, it's not a guess, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So just to follow up on Mr. Vasari's question, in reference to the interest, in reference to the projected 2.5K or million for ARPA for, you said the mid of next year, would that be under the concept of no ARPA funds, as in none of the ordinances that we have passed would be processed in order to get that 2.5 million? I mean, we have allocated a whole lot of ARPA funds, ordinances that are in a holding pattern that this administration is holding off on processing, like the $800,000 for the Upper Darby Arts Foundation, the $500,000, $100,000 for each of the firehouses, the signing of a contract for, or a lease for a new senior center, which this new senior center is not included in this budget. So I'm just trying to figure out if by mid next year, what is the interest going to be on if actually the ordinances that we have passed allocating ARPA funds actually were spent as they were, should have been a couple months ago. How do we get that 2.5?
Well, I estimate that by the end of this year, we'll get 2 million. And this year is ending in 2 months, right? So I don't think that we're going to be spending down all that money. So I think 5,000 is a very conservative amount. But I mean, we are spending, right? We're spending the ARPA, it's going down, we're earning less interest. But I think I think that 500,000 is, a minimal amount taken into consideration that we will be spending throughout the year. I don't.
So you expect to have the, right, so to get the 2 million by the end of this year, does that include the spending of the funds that have already been allocated by
It includes the
council?
spending that's happening every day for ARPA.
So what is the ARPA funds being spent on right now?
On many different ordinances. I mean.
Can we get an update of the ordinances that it's been spent on? I mean, I know that Treasurer Hammond gives us a monthly report that says things have been out.
And also
spent, but-
council gets a monthly report because I include ARPA in that.
And in our, right, and so
And that will
we're
be coming out
by the next meeting, right?
Yep,
hopefully by the next meeting,
Okay.
yes.
by the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, so when we were meeting with department heads, there was the conversation we had about the passport program, that it seemed like we were being charged more for the fees, we had more fees coming in that we had to pay for than the fines that we were collecting on. So I guess my real question is it worth having Passport? Are we getting a profit from having Passport, or are we paying more to actually have it?
And that's being looked into right now and renegotiating the fees in the contract. So yes, the consultant they have in the parking department and Brinker Simpson and also the acting CEO, they're all looking at the contract, meeting with that vendor and making that determination.
Okay, so is the contract, what's the end date of this contract? Are we in the middle of it, or is it something that expires at the end of this year?
I'm not sure, Laura, I'd have to find out. I'm not sure what the expiration is.
Councilwoman Wentz. Diane, is it safe to say that we have a bad contract with Passport? Is it safe to say? We're council here. It's pretty safe to say that we have a bad contract with Passport, and it's costing more money than it's worth. And it's safe to say that our contract runs another year with Passport?
I don't know how long the contract.
I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that.
I mean, so then while you're talking to them, can we find out what it would cost to terminate the contract? I mean, if we're paying more than we're bringing in, we can't afford to do that under any circumstances. So if we can't get those fees down, then we need to find out what it is to terminate it. Because that's just, it's not worth it. And that'll save us the $188,000 plus that we're already paying for it.
Especially on the 18,000 tickets. We were paying Passport on those 18,000 tickets that never went to where they needed to go to.
Well, it's a matter of not all, were all those, so of the 18,000 tickets that never made it to the courts, how many of them were Passport tickets?
I don't know that answer.
They all went to court now.
Right, but if they go to court now, then they're also probably being thrown out. So the other question is how many of, I mean, because I was looking at the numbers for what you're projecting for the district courts, and the numbers are pretty low as far as revenue is concerned, but we haven't had a full year of actually having all of the township's tickets actually going to the courts. So at some point, when within this year did the tickets actually start going to the courts? And also keep in mind, my understanding that a lot of the tickets that did go to court, some had already been paid and they were sent to the court, so the judge threw them out, or they were obviously expired the 60-day window of time that they're supposed to go to the court. So if any ticket was older than 60 days and ones that were 2 years old, my guess is the judges were throwing them out as well, which is millions of dollars that we lost on potential revenue. So I think we got to look at the district court numbers because we haven't had a full year of actual, tickets going to the courts and actually funds coming in. I know that the ticket writers are, writing tickets. You reported that at our department head meeting that they wrote I think it was 4,000 tickets in August versus like 1,500 or 1,800 the month before, and that the meter revenue had increased because tickets had increased, and so people started feeding the meter to avoid getting a ticket, which is great. And I greatly appreciate the workers of the parking department for doing all that. But I think that we need to relook at the numbers and maybe compare to a previous year where there wasn't a, mishandling of tickets and kiosk and meters funds.
I can definitely look at the district court fines and see if they need to be increased. And in terms of the Passport contract and everything, I think that Allison needs to speak to that.
Right. I'm just, putting, since I'm figuring that you're part of the conversation, just so you know what our thoughts are. Okay. And then I guess my other question is the township employee who did take the money from the kiosks and the meters and then put it into a different bank and then a bank account she set up for herself. Is that employee still working for the township?
I assume you're speaking about the parking director is no longer working for the township.
Not the parking director, the actual person from the department, the employee from the department who had been directed to do those things.
I'm not aware if she's still employed.
So, well, because it has,
Well, we'll have to get that answer in 2 weeks.
okay.
We'll have to get that answer in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we just need clarification if the person's still being
Let's-
paid by the township.
Yeah, let's just send an email and if we can, 7:15, we can start it on the other meeting. So,
Okay.
as long as everybody's okay.
Okay.
What's that? I'm sorry. No? Okay. Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to officially close the first public hearing for the